on your revenue, your main revenue, because that's huge. And that's my main takeaway. That's what I'm trying to do really, is to use that money for marketing and to be able to scale more. That's for me is the biggest takeaway.
Regarding this conversation, what do you tell the person that is a little bit worried about, I need to hire another person, but I don't know if I have enough to be able to give them a full route, and make sure that, they can pay their bills based off of that?
For me,
yeah.
And in my situation, it's a little bit, if you can afford, if you can project your growth and you can afford to hire somebody that can help you with starts, callbacks, initial services, and you kind of know your projection a little bit, and you kind of can foresee the future, I think it's worth it. But you do have to know where you're at. You have to know your numbers. And that's why I talk to Joe about it sometimes. Like, we've had those conversations. I don't know if you remember, but we kind of talked about that.
Absolutely. That was going to be my short answer. Yeah. Know your numbers. You got to know your numbers. So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if it's going to be where you're going to have a full route in 90 days, that I'm saying you should have hired already, because by the time you put an ad out, they put in 2 weeks notice, you train them.
People think, I need the route, I need the customers so that I can hire, but it should really be the other way around.
Yeah. And likewise for even the numbers, is I've sat down with people who say, Joe, I'm hiring my first person, but I don't know if I can afford them. And we go down through their books, and it's like, you're right, you can't afford them. And then we kind of take a step back. Okay, let's see where you're at. And maybe they're doing $700 a day production, and they should be doing $1,500 a day production. I had one client, success story, 90 days, we turned that around and saying, this is where your price point should be. And it was a little bit slow, but everything new. If he had no room to take on new work, he was full. Everything else jumped up and started raising the old customers. And within 90 days, he was up to that $1,500 mark. And we're like, okay, now you can hire a technician and you still have money left over. Go ahead, Jose.
Question for you.
Yeah.
What should a route technician be pulling in daily?
On a daily?
Daily, yeah.
I used to say
minimum to kind of, Mallory or...
Yeah, no problem. So, and wildlife usually is about double the numbers, but I will say for pest control, generally about, I say $1,400, $1,500 now. I used to say $1,200, which is about $150 an hour if they're roughly going out for an 8-hour day. But the cost of everything's going up. You've got to pay your techs more than we did 4 or 5 years ago. So I would say about $1,500. And you can look at the numbers a couple different ways. So if we can take it where a lot of people say, I want my techs to do $25,000 a month, or I want them to do $300,000 a year. That's kind of the same thing. And if you break down 20 working days in a month, just with a couple to spare in there, if they're going out doing $1,000 a day, they're getting $20,000 in. And I see about 17 grand is that break even for most companies. You're losing money if you go below that. If you can get them up to 24, 25, you're doing good. Once again, it depends if we're talking about a one-man show, somebody with 12 techs. If you're running from, say, South Florida here, from Palm Beach County all the way down to Homestead, you're not going to get, $30,000, $40,000 in.
One of the things county that's key with one-man show is that they'll go try to cover 2 counties, no route anything.
Yes,
so they're pulling in $800 a day, they're working 10 hours, 12 hours.
Yes.
Why are you trying to motivate
drivers
to live down here if you're not working on cycle farming? Because they don't understand market.
Yes.
They don't understand their route thing is more important than actually how much you charge.
Like this.
Because the units can charge you lower, but you have route density, it's bang, bang, bang.
And if we're talking general pest control, it's not hard to break $30,000 a month or even up to $40,000. Everything is cranking on fire, nice tight route density. Normally, if I'm meeting with somebody, it's not quite working out. They're trying to make it better. So usually I set about 25 grand as a goal. So that's going to come in somewhere around that $1,500 a day. It is what you want to shoot for. And some days you're not going to hit it, but usually end of the month you average around that 25,000. And if you can hit that, 12 months out of the year, 300 grand. You got 4 techs doing that. Usually another saying people have is they say, hey, 4 techs, you should be doing $1 million. So that gives you a little bit of room to spare. And you can kind of break it down then on the daily. But if you got, say, 4 techs going out now, if your techs are doing $25,000 a piece, I'm not messing with them. We can talk about tweaking and get route density, do some little stuff, but it's not bad. Where I'm looking at is, let's say it is where you got a tech, he's going out there and he's got 16, 17 grand. I got a client like this right now. One tech's getting 16 grand, 3 other techs are 25 to 30. And okay, well, now we know where to look. Let's look at this one doing 16 grand. Let's look at each day. All right, this day's 2,000. This day's 1,500. Whoa, this day's 200. And then they got maybe a 0 and a 0. What happened here? Is it the routing from the office? Is there just, not work in that area where he is? Is it something they're doing? Are they just horrible at service and they're getting tons of reservices? So you start digging deeper and deeper and deeper in the daily. So I'm not normally looking at every day's numbers, but you start at the month and then you kind of hone in down to the week and the day and even down to the hour. Once again, that's if you're doing $150 an hour, that's a good equalizer for, if you like doing apartments, you like doing high-end residential, he's doing lawn. If you're doing $150 an hour counting your travel time, 8-hour day, you're going to come into that 1,200 plus range. And that's a good one too. If you sell a new job and it takes you 5 hours to do it and you sold it for $200, you're going the wrong direction and losing money.